Yeah, so my name's Cherie Hill, and I'm a choreographer, and dancer, and scholar. And I am going to be talking about my project called Dub Dance Project, which is a series of dance videos that I create to specific dub music and that are filmed in a site-specific environment and then released out on YouTube. And this is a project that I've been working on for about almost 2 years with my collaborator, David Wolford, who is a filmmaker. And so far we have 5 films. Some of the motivations for this project, my grandmother is from Jamaica, so I'm of Caribbean descent, and I grew up listening to a lot of reggae music. But it wasn't until 2010 that I witnessed my first dub dance event with a full stack sound system. So I don't know if anyone here has been to a music event that has a full stack sound system, but the sound systems are huge, the music is loud, and it creates a lot of frequencies within the body. And so I was just kind of blown away by that experience and the effects that happen in dub music, and I felt that those effects really speak to my contemporary dance lineage. So I started to create this project. I was also influenced by this new kind of street dance crave and video series called dubstep, which is a source of electronic music that is different from dub reggae music because it pulls from popular music, and there are street dancers who are creating videos showing different dubstep moves, but it tends to be very male-dominated. And so as a feminist choreographer, I was interested in going back to my roots with dub reggae music and creating videos that had more of a feminist nature to them. So right here are a couple of pictures of a sound system. They are large speakers stacked that run from about 5 to 20 kilowatts of sound. And through an active crossover, signals from the sound are usually sent to 3 or 4 parts, depending on the frequency that the selector wants. They're custom built, so the selectors build their own systems to be as loud or as massive as they need. Sub-low frequencies are sent to the amplifier through the bass boxes, which are also called scoops. And the mid-bass frequencies are sent through the amp, and that's called the mediums or the kick basses, which tend to send the feeling of being kicked in the body a little bit, or through the chest, through the bass. And then also the mid-drivers are sent through the amps towards the tops, and the high amps as well, to create different levels of frequencies with the sound. And the sound system, as far as reggae dub goes, originated in Jamaica around the late 60s, early 70s, and spread to the UK and all parts of Europe, and now in the US. And these sound systems are used in lots of different events and parties. So reggae dub music is a sublet of electronic dance music. And there's been a lot of controversy about electronic dance music and what it's doing to the brain and what it's doing to the body, especially in the 90s and early 2000s with the whole rave party scene. People have said that when they're in an electronic dance music party or they're dancing to electronic dance music, they feel a heightened sense of euphoria. They feel like parts of their bodies are being opened, or their chakra centers are being opened, and that some people have said they feel elevated levels of consciousness or connections to the divine through the sound waves. In the Electronic Awakenings documentary, Dr. Nick Bajich states that the transmitter frequencies that are sent through the electronic music and mixers have the ability to open up parts of the brain that otherwise remain closed, and have the ability to create harmony between the sound that is being sent and the brain that's receiving it. Also, there's been research on the sound waves coming from electronic music, and it's been said that the repetitive rhythms can bring trance-like states, which activate the theta waves of the brain and create permeability, and that can bring unconscious thoughts into the conscious realm. Some have also argued that all of us en masse is made up of sound waves and sound energy, and that when dancing to electronic music, those kind of waves become more visible and more conscious for them. As I've been researching dub music more, I came across this text. This is Reggae Music by Lloyd Bradley. And he really describes dub music, dub reggae music, as being disconcerting and mutated from its original form. So when it was coming out, basically, dub engineers were taking roots music that might have been played with a band and then using electronic mixers to distort it, to remix it, to add echo effects, and so that it created this new kind of tweaked version of the original. So he says, you take each element of the tune as separate, the bass, the drums, the horns, the bongos, the keyboards, and so on, then set out to refocus the whole piece of work by adjusting, tweaking, bringing forward, or pushing back each of them individually until the whole is satisfactorily rebalanced. And I feel like this definition really fits my process of creating choreography to dub music, because when I am listening to the piece of music that I decide to create to, I am really looking for those different segments of frequencies and those different parts of the instruments that are happening, and then I take those different parts and I create a choreographic phrase of movement that really highlights what's happening in that part of the music. So this is a picture from Dub Dance Project number 2 to King Earthquake's native dub. And I'm going to play a little bit of the video and kind of walk you through my process of making the choreography to the music. Phrases for each piece that I'm hearing. And then once I have the phrases, I tend to manipulate them. So I might naturally want to just do something more moving in the upper and lower body, but I might say to myself, okay, why don't I change that and just do it in the lower half of my body? And what does that do? Or what if I take it and I only move it forward or backward? Or I can take it and move it upside down somehow. So I'm really taking my own version of the original and tweaking it to create something else, which is what choreographers do. After I have those kind of set phrases, I then find a site to do the choreography in, And the site is connected as well to what I'm hearing in the music. I'll tend to listen to the music and think about what images come up, what thoughts come up, and how the site can enhance what I'm hearing within the dub music. So I want to play a piece of music for you guys. Stop this. Sorry about that. Okay. So this piece of music is from Violin Boys Toquero. He's a European dub musician. And while you're listening to it, I just want you to think of what images, thoughts, or sensations come to your mind. So what came up for you while you were listening? Anyone?
I was thinking like processional, walking, starting with a procession and then dancing down the street.
Interesting. So street-like into anyone else? Yeah.
Some just sound like sound waves, like there's just nothing at all, but you just feel music almost.
Sense of nothingness. Yeah. So yeah.
For some reason, you know the pipes in the Phantom, I always like got Phantom of the Opera, but like these huge organ pipes. And then it turned into like dancing still drum.
Okay. Let me get big again. Sorry. Okay. So I put this out on Facebook and asked the same kind of questions, and thank you. A lot of people responded that that sense of nothingness or vastness, openness, length, open sky, and I felt kind of the same way. So I ended up filming it up in the Berkeley Hills by Tilden Park in a big, large field. Thanks, you did that, and then I have to. So, this is part of the filming of it, and I also felt like Violin Boys known for that violin kind of sound in dub music, which I felt like really showed this kind of length and elongation in the body. So a lot of my movement, that movement phrase came from that really violinist aspect of the music. But then in contrast, there's this boisterousness that happens. Almost like a sense of jumping or excited movement. So that was contrasted with really using space, really turning, really jumping, and then being able to contrast again with that kind of more elongation and self-space. And also with time, kind of slowing down, because that music has this really almost like never-ending kind of feeling with that length. So that's what I did for that project, that project number 5. And then, how did you do that?
From current slide, the button on the top. What is it? Button on the bottom.
Oh, awesome, thank you. And so Dub Dance Project number 1 and 2 had more of that heavier bass, more of a gritty feeling, very urban, and that was filmed in West Oakland by a mural graffiti wall that's over by the warehouses, and that's about a block long.
Is it near Mandela Parkway?
Yes, yes it is. Dub Dance Project number 3 had more of a kind of watery feel, which we filmed over by the Emeryville shoreline. Number 4 had this like machinery. I performed it and people said it sounded like machines and electronics. So we found a place that just had a lot of metal and took up a lot of space. And then 5 was in the vast open field. And then what I find too, not only is the site important because it complements the music, but also because I use it in the improvisational structure for filming. My choreography that I create in the studio serves as just a container for the actual movement. And when I move into a site, I can implement that site into the piece through improvisation. So like in number 1, there was a lot of lines and shapes and textures of color in the mural. So within my phrase, I could find those places where I could implement some of that stuff I was seeing and then go back to the phrase. In number 2, it was very serene, quiet, a lot of stillness, so a lot of the movement became smaller, like the ripples of the water, or just really seeing the ducks pass and taking their time as they went by. And those are things that only happen once I get into the site. I can't premeditatedly plan those for my choreography. This is my collaborator, David Wolford, who's a filmmaker. And we work very closely together in creating the film. It usually takes us about 2 to 4 hours to shoot. And then he'll go back into the studio and we'll create like a storyboard or a draft. And then we'll work together to make the final piece because I consider him the expert behind the editing, where I'm the expert behind the choreography. And it's important for me that the choreography doesn't get all meshed up and spliced too much. I like longer clips and to make sure it's going to have a climax and to make sure that it flows in a certain way. So we work really closely together to make the final product, which is the film. And the films are always the whole length of that tune, so they're kind of videos that go with the song. So next steps, we have 5 films now. I'm listening to a piece of music right now and hope to have the next one in January. I'm also interested in inserting graphics that really relate and show frequency of sound in between some of the clips of the video to make these longer videos that can last for like 2 to 3 hours and can be played at dub dance events, which go all night from like 10 to 4 in the morning, or electronic dance events that also go all night, and that kind of show that pulsating of the music.
Immersive kind of videos.
Yeah, definitely projected up on the screen. And I'm also interested maybe in holograms or holographic images of dance, maybe from some of these videos that can also be projected onto the dance floor in some of these parties. So if any of you know any connections to that or have any ideas, please let me know. And you can contact me at www.irondance.com. That's my website. Thank you.
Any questions?
Well, I was just curious, so for each piece you do, you develop a vocabulary of movement. But is there a basic vocabulary underneath all of this, and can you identify that vocabulary?
Yeah, I think some of the similarities are there's always kind of this, in the dub reggae kind of dance, there's certain movements that happen a lot to the music, like this kind of knee lifting thing and kind of, like they call it a skank. And I find that those movements come into my choreography, but then with the music and the sights, they're modified. And that kind of is like an underlying theme that is layered with the other stuff.
Good question.
Sometimes.
Yeah, so this is really the focus of your presentation, but you touched briefly on how dub music and EDM can sometimes have aspects of transcendent or religious experience. I remember I once took a class on Sufism and we were watching this video, and there's this one part where a DJ who converted to Islam talks about how he was at this rave and he has this realization that everyone on the dance floor is worshiping God while they dance. But I was wondering, do you know if anyone's ever done any sort of like analysis of, I guess, the technical aspects of the music composition, whether or not there's any similarity to dub or EDM and, I don't know, type, the music composition and I guess various other forms of religious or traditional religious music?
Yeah, I haven't found a lot about it, but I also just kind of started really researching it. But in that text, This Is Reggae Music, he goes in a little bit about how the intermixing of it and the effects to him could be considered obeah. And obeah is kind of an African medicine, spiritual kind of practice. In the West, it's considered kind of dark magic, just like Odun is kind of considered dark, like using different resources to connect with other powers and other entities and to heal yourself or to heal another. And so he actually talks a little bit about how that process is similar to the process of a medicine man or woman using different tools to heal themselves or to connect to a higher power, to communicate. So I've heard a little bit about that, but I'm sure there's more stuff out there.
Was the question specifically about the trance music? Because in general, there's been a lot of studies about music and spirituality.
Oh, specifically.
Starting with Pythagoras 2,500 years ago.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot out there.
So in general, the connection, there's a conference at Stanford, Brain Music.
I mean, one doesn't think of like pop music as, inducing religious experiences in general. So, I don't know, maybe the 4/4 time signature. Well, actually, I don't really know much about. So I don't know if dub music usually is in 4/4.
Right. Yeah. I don't know the specifics, but I'm sure there's definitely, I know people know, like how much hertz can cause this to happen or what frequency might open this up. I'm sure there's deeper research, but I can't answer it right now. Yeah.
I really liked it. I really liked the way you used the media. Is there any thought of you're kind of stepping outside and choreographing for 2 or more people in a place where you can sell tickets?
Yeah, actually in June I just had a show, it was called Terrestrial Footprints, and it was an evening length show. There were 6 of us dancing in it, and it was to all dub music. And it kind of looked at African dance concepts and how they fit within the dub kind of music spectrum. And I'm writing grants now to continue that and go deeper, to take the dub music effects like reverberation and echo and time lapse, and to create choreographic tools, informations, and structures that have to do with those effects, and then to perform them.
Being a child of the 60s, is there any relationship to Rasta in this?
Oh yes, of course, yeah. This comes out of roots reggae music, which comes out of a lot of Rastafari traditions, and a lot of the dub music that's not instrumental, that has lyrics on it, talk about Rastafari practices. So, but it is actually a mix. Not a lot of people that are involved in it aren't exactly Rasta, even though there is a Rasta sense to the music. But all kinds of people create dub music and go to the events. And I'm Rasta myself, so. Yeah.
So what kind of help do you need to create holographic images?
I need someone to help me know how to do it or connect me with someone who's interested. Because I have no idea
Just
where to
just
start.
the technology.
The technology, yes. The technology, great.
Good?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you.